Welcome. This is Genesis 1:1, beginning with God. Scripture does not begin with man, culture, or opinion. It begins with God. And if that is true, then truth, meaning, order, and authority do not begin with us. They begin with Him. Before you argue about morality, identity, truth, meaning, or purpose, you have to answer a more basic question. If we exist, what is our origin? Do you begin with God? Do you begin with matter? Do you begin with man? Do you begin with yourself? Everybody begins somewhere. Nobody comes to reality without assumptions. Nobody lives without some kind of starting point. The question is not whether you have a worldview. The question is whether the foundation of that worldview is true. And the Christian worldview begins with a very specific claim. Not that man defines reality, but that God does. The Christian worldview begins with the claim, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is not vague spirituality. It's a declaration about origin, reality, and authority. If Scripture is true here, reality is not self-defined. It begins with God. This is why the order of Genesis 1:1 matters so much. In the beginning, God. God is first, not man, not matter, not the universe, not human reason. That means Christianity does not begin by asking human beings to construct God from below. It begins with God already there, already real, already existing before all created things. This is why Exodus 3:14 matters. I am who I am. And this is why Jesus' words in John 8:58 matter. Before Abraham was, I am. The God of Scripture is not presented as one being among many. He is the one who simply is. And if God simply is, then He is not answerable to creation in the way creation is answerable to Him. Christianity begins with God defining reality, not humans defining what they see. Genesis 1:1 establishes worldview implications: order, meaning, and lordship. Creation implies a structured world. Life has purpose from a creator. And if God made all things, He has authority over truth, morality, and accountability. This leads to practical theology. Truth is discovered under God. Life has purpose from a creator. Good and evil are not mere preferences, and people matter because they bear God's image. Genesis 1:1 speaks to authority, dignity, and how we interpret the world. At this point, we can begin asking apologetic, or the defense of the Christian worldview, questions. Not because science or philosophy stand above Scripture. They do not. Scripture is first. But science and philosophy can still serve as secondary witnesses as we examine the world God made. So we ask, does reality appear ordered or ultimately chaotic? When we observe the world, do we find structure, intelligibility, and consistency? Does the universe appear to have a beginning, or does it appear eternal and self-explaining? Are there stable laws governing nature? Do we live in a world that behaves in a meaningful, dependable way? And when we step back and look at those things together, which explanation best accounts for them? These questions do not replace Scripture. They follow from it. They help us ask whether the world we observe fits better with a created order than with its alternatives. These are not just debate questions. These are life questions. What does Genesis 1:1 force me to assume about reality? Why does it matter that God is first in the biblical worldview? If God created everything, what does that say about truth, morality, and purpose? And how does that challenge the way our culture usually thinks? These questions are worth sitting with, because the goal here is not simply to win an argument or sound informed. The goal is to think more clearly in the world we live in and what our original purpose in it is. And when Scripture begins with God, it calls us to do the same. If Genesis 1:1 establishes God as creator, then the next question becomes unavoidable. How is this creator moving toward us, revealing himself, and calling us to respond? The Bible does not leave God as a distant force or an abstract idea. It moves from creation to revelation, from the God who made all things to the God who speaks, acts, and makes himself known. That is where the Gospels come into view. That is where the resurrection comes into view. So Genesis 1:1 gives us the foundation, but it also points forward. It moves us toward the question of Christ. For this week, read the Gospels. Pay attention to how God reveals himself and consider the response he calls for. Join us for the next video, From Creator to Christ.